And hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Rich Sports Talk. As the New York Jets once again fall on a Sunday, we have a ton to talk about as the Jets continue to impress, the only team that cannot punt in a game, but somehow only score 9 points. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk. As we continue to grow and elevate this channel, make sure to give us a like, subscribe so you don't miss any of our latest content. During our live stream, you can always make your comments, give your instant reaction to the Jets loss today. But if you want to get in front of that line, we now have the super chat feature with all the super chat stickers, of course. So if you want to jump the line, get your comment to the front of the line, super chat, baby, is the way to go. And again, you can check out multiple videos and wherever we are streaming on podcasts. I have a new video out this week going through every single Joe Douglas draft pick and grading every single Joe Douglas pick. And guys, there were 40 of them, so there were a lot. But let's get to this. And I want to start this differently because for all of you guys and all of the fans out there, we could start it how we usually start it, going over the same thing every week. Criticizing Aaron Rodgers' play or critiquing it. We could go through the coaching. We can go through the field goal kicking, the mind-numbing plays. But I want to bring up something that a lot of Jet fans feel. And it's days like today where you do wonder to yourself, is there something out there that is working against the Jets? Is there something working against the Jets? Because Olu Fashanu was one of the few bright spots for this team. It looked like a stalwart left tackle. The Jets finally had it figured out. And of course, he gets injured, diagnosed with a foot injury. Ulbrich said after the game in his press conference, there's no immediate update. They're doing more tests, which does not sound good. And of course, this genius coaching staff, which will all be fired in a matter of weeks. You know, all week they heard about the Garrett Wilson rumors and all this talk about Garrett Wilson's camp getting frustrated with them. And how they followed up? Well, until the last drive of the game, they made sure that Garrett Wilson, who's the fourth most targeted receiver in the NFL, by the way, was only targeted 3 times. Davante Adams had to get his 10. You know, Alan Lazard had to get targeted more, and Tyler Conklin, who's not going to be here likely next year, had to get more targets. So I know that there is this perception that Woody likes to meddle, that Woody likes to get involved and have his say. If Woody really is a meddler and Woody really wants to meddle, I would give them this advice. Go down to this coaching staff and say, I don't care what the game plan is. I don't care what you are planning on doing. I don't care about Davante Adams. You're getting Garrett Wilson 10 to 12 targets every game for the rest of the season. I mean, after the game, Garrett Wilson said, I would love to be involved, love to make an impact on the game, but if people see it differently, then that's out of my control. Just try and do what I can do. Are they seriously? It's like the Jets in this front. It's just so maddening because it just feels like the Jets can't get a break. On one side of it, you get Garrett Wilson, who is frustrated. He clearly wants to make an impact. And the Jets, for whatever reason, do not want to give him the football. Even though he's one of the most dynamic players in football, this genius coaching staff, and again, everyone wants to blame the Jets organization for firing Robert Saleh. Yeah, the timing was bad, but this is the coaching staff that Robert Saleh handpicked. This is the coaching staff, and this is a coaching staff that cannot figure out how to get Malachi Corley onto the field. A coaching staff that doesn't understand that Xavier Gibson is terrible at returning punts and cost them with a punt to end the game today. A coaching staff that doesn't understand that what Aaron Rodgers is doing with this team is frustrating because, yes, did the stats look pretty for Aaron today? Yeah, at the end of the day, they look pretty, but it's pretty isolating to this team when Aaron goes 15 of 20 in the first half, 149 yards. Second half, 13 of 22, 107 yards. Not the same quarterback. And you look at this Jet team, you have talented running backs. Breece Hall again, 14 carries. The whole running back room, total 19 carries in this game. 19. You want to know something funny? The Rams, who again didn't look great today, a team that, is built on this high flying, flashy offense, right? They have a great quarterback in Matthew Stafford. Kyren Williams had 23 carries. He outdrew the whole Jets running back room and a little bit more. And then you look at the Jets. You look at the targets shares. Devontae Adams, 7 catches in this game. Garrett Wilson, 6 for 54. But of course, 3 of those came on the last drive. It is just so maddening because you can see once again that this team has talent. I think that's a reason why this coaching search is one of the reasons the Jets around the league. You heard it today from the beat reporters. It's funny how, everyone was beating around the bush and saying, oh my God, the Jets look terrible from that leg offer. But then you hear reporters today then saying, we know it's funny because a lot of people around the league are basically saying, the Jets coaching staff job, not too bad. It's not terrible. So, and a bit of an update on Olu Fashanu. Olu was seen on crutches in the locker room per Connor Hughes. So that is not good. I'm praying for a broken foot. Either way, it's frustrating that Olu is out for the remainder of the season. My big thing is, and I think we're all praying for it, is just have this be like a couple month injury. Just have this an injury where he will be ready to go for training camp. Even if he has to miss OTAs and some of the offseason, as long as he's ready to go and will be fully healthy by training camp, I think we can deal with it. Because, man, if this is a bad injury, it goes back to what I was saying, where, I know there's a lot of fans that don't believe in curses, and I'm not one of them. But this is one of those moments where you just feel like whether it's the football gods, whether it's divine intervention, whether it's karma, you just look at this Jet team. It's like, really? Like, this season has been bad enough for us. This season has been torturous for us. But we're finally, think about this as a fan base. We are watching offensive line play for a bright spot right now. We are watching a left tackle for our bright spot right now. And of course, Olu gets hurt. It doesn't look good. The main thing is you just hope it's for the remainder of the season. But now it's frustrating because what do you watch? What do you look forward to watching now for the remainder of this season? Aaron Rodgers trying to get TD past 500 and throw it to Devontae Adams 15 to 20 times a game. Forget you have Garrett Wilson. Do you want to see this team again neglect Breece Hall? And look, I know that this will be a debate until the cows come home, so we can have it on this channel today, but we're definitely having the offseason. What's the Jets' best option at the quarterback position long term? And I was saying it last week, it probably is Rodgers because I don't love this quarterback class. But today is another thing against Rodgers where, yes, he's not the biggest problem on the Jets. But again, when you have guys out there like Aaron Rodgers, who's basically calling his own game plan, he's basically calling the plays. He'll get the plays, but he's the one choosing it. And Aaron right now is what I would consider stat packing. When we leave the box score today, and when people look at the box score tomorrow morning on the national shows and everything, they're going to say, hey, Aaron Rodgers was 28 to 42, 256 and a touchdown. He wasn't the problem. Yet they have a talented running back room where Breece Hall should be getting 20 carries a game, got 14. You look, Isaiah Davis, who's shown pop in recent weeks, 3 carries. Braylon Allen, 2 carries. I mean, this is an ugly, cold game today where it's 15 to 20 degrees. I don't care who my quarterback is. You look at the Rams. The Rams, I think, are an organization that you want to emulate. The Rams have another Hall of Fame quarterback. You know what his name is Matthew Stafford. You know what they did today? They attacked the Jets' weakness. And you know what they did? Matthew Stafford, let's play a fun game for the kids at home. How many attempts, don't look it up, do you think Matthew Stafford had in this game throwing the football? How many times did he push the ball? How many times did he throw the ball total in this game? Give up? 19. Matthew Stafford threw the ball 19 times. 14 completions, 110 yards. Matthew Stafford threw for less than 125 yards. Even had a pick in there. His running back had more yards than he did. 122 from Kyren Williams. But That was the game plan. It was an ugly game. It was an ugly day. They went to the East Coast for playing a weird time slot. They won ugly because the Rams have great coaching. They realized probably not the best idea to throw the ball. But you look at the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, 42 times. Breece Hall, and again, 3.7 yards per carry. I get it's not pretty, but the Jets don't establish the run. The Jets don't establish the run. And if you're going to throw it all over the yard like that, why is Garrett Wilson getting 3 targets until the last drive of the game? You're giving Tyler Conklin more targets. You're giving Alan freaking Lazard more targets. To me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, it almost feels like Aaron is looking out for his boys. Oh, Devontae, even heard on the broadcast. Oh, you know how bad he wants to get that 500 touchdown to Devontae. Jet fans were like, we don't care who catches the damn ball. We just want to get the damn ball in the end zone. And then, of course, Carlson, who was on a hot streak, that's come to an end. Hopefully there's kicking tryouts in Florham Park tomorrow. But, man, and look, let's get to some of your comments again. Super chat to jump the line, everyone. Kevin, do you know how bad the Olu injury is? It appears to be a foot. I was more worried ACL, MCL. If I had to put money on it, I'm hoping it's a broken foot. Usually when they say it's a calf injury, that's the Achilles. Again, it could still be an Achilles, which is worrisome. But usually I remember with the AVT, they kept saying it was a lower calf injury, which usually means Achilles. So I'm hoping it's a broken foot. Again, that's probably a 2-month injury. And at this point, I'm fine with that. If he broke his foot, fine. You know what? Get him rehabbing, get him ready for next season. Dano Jets, go check out his channel. 4th and 1, not going to Braille on his tiresome. Look, it's frustrating because you know the Jets don't have the QB sneak in their package. You know they're not giving it to Braylon Allen. And look, I give the Jets credit for going in on 4th down today, but the biggest 4th down of the game, they screwed up again. This coaching it's so bad where they run the clock down. They get the 2-minute, they have to burn a timeout before the 2 minutes. Then they get the 5-yard penalty on Mitchell. Then you got to kick the field goal with the field goal kicker, has lost it today, has no confidence. He misses it. You get the ball back again, pretty much no shot, but then you still get the punt back. And, of course, Xavier Gibson muffs it. I'm sorry, but I would say this, too. For everyone that is saying that Woody Johnson is meddling with this team right now, if I was Woody Johnson and I had to meddle with this team, I would be saying, why is Malachi Corley not out there instead of Alan Lazard? Why is Malachi Corley not returning kicks? We spent that high 3rd-round draft pick on this kid. I mean, at least he was active today. But why is it that when we're out there, we're not giving the ball to Garrett Wilson? Because, I don't know, Garrett Wilson seems frustrated and might want to get out of here because for obvious reasons. I mean, Garrett Wilson, after the game, sounded pissed that he wasn't involved. And I get it. It just seemed like basically if Aaron wasn't going to Devontae, it was... you look, Braylon Allen in short yardage situations, not getting the ball done. And look, as great as Devontae Adams, as great as Devontae Adams looked today, big drops in the end zone again. And you look at all these close games, it all comes down to coaching. It all comes down to coaching because in one possession games, teams that are disciplined and have great coaching figure it out. They figure out how to get the job done. And the Jets don't. They don't have good coaching. And every week it's, we need to work on the little things. Oh, we got to go to the tape. And Ulbrich again, I think Ulbrich's just checked out at this point. Ulbrich at the end of the game basically was saying, hey, when they asked Garrett Wilson, why the heck was Garrett Wilson not getting the ball? His reaction was, we'll check the tape. Check the tape. Every Jet fan was seeing it was Aaron playing pitch and catch with Rodgers and Lazard. It was trying to recreate Green Bay in 2015, 2016. I'm sorry, but this coaching staff is just so miserable. And I think the one bright spot you took out of today was you heard it from earlier this week from one person that loves to bury the Jets. You heard it from Colin Cowherd, who talked to Mike Vrabel, and he even said on his show, Mike Vrabel would be interested in the Jets. He's intrigued by the Jets. You heard from Connor Hughes that around the league, more people are interested in the Jets than the outside would like to believe, because here's the one thing the Jets have that a lot of these bad teams don't. They actually have a pretty good core, and a lot of it's the offensive line, which adds to the frustration with the Olu injury. If Olu clears and makes out where he's going to be ready to go for next season, the Jets have 4 of the 5 position on the offensive line locked up. And you can make the case if they get Morgan Moses, which I do think is clearly feasible, they'll have 5 of the 5. But it's just frustrating because Olu was one of the few bright spots. He was one of the few things you enjoyed watching. You saw the difference. And now they're throwing Max Mitchell out there, who just looks overwhelmed. It's just frustrating with Mitchell too, because this was a kid. You kind of wonder what could have happened with that weird blood issue that he had his rookie year. If he didn't have that diagnosis, if he was able to finish that year, where could he have ended up? But man, here's the thing too. I said it after people were freaking out last week. The Jets are not winning another game. Jets are not winning another game. They're just not. There's no way the Jets are going to get steamrolled by Buffalo. I'm going to save you the trouble. Don't watch. I'll still be here next week to follow up after the game. I can give you the rundown. I can give you the eulogy, but it's not going to be pretty. I'll tell you that. But it's frustrating because the one game they maybe could win, Miami's a weird one because Miami's out. But everyone I remember was freaking out last week. Oh my God, I can't believe the Jets won that game. Oh my God, I can't believe. Oh my God. I'm like, the Jets are still picking 8th. The Jets are going to have a top 10 pick. And look, Carolina now with a win. Now with the winning percentage, the Jets are still ahead behind the Panthers, but you still have a bunch of teams now. Still could potentially win another game. You have Cleveland at 3-12, Tennessee 3-12, New England at 3-11, Jacksonville at 3-11. The big one would be Cleveland, because if Cleveland could somehow get to 4 wins, they have a better winning percentage against strength of schedule, so the Jets would automatically jump them. But look, the biggest debate this offseason, again, guys, comment section's open. If you want to jump to the front of the line, use the super chat feature and to put some fun stickers out there. But look, Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be a big debate. And one of the things with Aaron is, yes, Aaron hasn't been the biggest problem for this team, but he also hasn't been the biggest solution. Second half today, 13-22, 59%, 107 yards, 4.9 yards per throw, wasn't moving the football down the field, gets rolled up at near the end of the game, looks injured, was likely going to go to Tyrod Taylor. Then Aaron comes back, still doesn't look right. And look, I was curious. A part of me, and I think a lot of Jet fans are a little curious, how this offense would look with Tyrod. I don't think Tyrod would be a better quarterback, but here's the thing. Tyrod, will push the ball down the field, even to his detriment. He'll take shots. And the other thing with Tyrod, I wonder, would this offense be more balanced? Because to me, Tyrod seems like a guy who doesn't have that ego, where if the coaches want to run the football and establish the run and give the ball to the running backs more, I think Tyrod would do it if they want to be more run heavy. In the passing game, I don't think it's going to be, well, it's Devontae and then everyone else. I think it's going to be, okay, whoever's open in my read or my progression, I'm getting the football to. Because there's times, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, guys, where I see Aaron forcing stuff to Devontae, and you look on the field and you look at the tape, and there's other guys wide open. And I think part of the frustration with Garrett Wilson was, I think his hope was when Devontae got here, he'd be getting more open looks, and he's been getting open, but Aaron's just has googly eyes for Devontae. And then to now with Allen Lazard back, it's like, okay, Allen Lazard's going to get his fill today, when Allen Lazard is a below average receiver. Again, with the drops today, Allen Lazard is at best your 3rd or 4th receiver on this team. Like how Garrett Wilson is not leading this team or up there. It should be 1A and 1B with Devontae. If Devontae has 10 targets, then Garrett better have 8 or 9. If there is like a 3 or 4 target discrepancy, something has gone absolutely horrendously, terribly wrong. Are we ahead or behind according to Tankathon, we are behind Carolina because Carolina has a 498 percentage, the Jets 502. But again, that can change. It all depends on the final two games. There's a lot of calculations that go into it. But again, a lot of those teams are playing right now. And my big thing, too, is I know everyone wants to get to the top of the draft. I know everyone wants to get up there, but there's not a great quarterback in this draft. And the one other thing, too, is, and I'll get to Dano's next comment. The other thing I would be worried about, too, in this game is, like, with Aaron, it just seems like Aaron's going to do it his own way. And it's almost to the detriment. I think part of the reason, too, is Aaron's like, well, the coaching staff's terrible, so I'm just going to do whatever I want. He's not going to get challenged by anyone. And you're seeing it. It's like, just feed Devontae. What did Olu's injury look like to you in Achilles? It's a non-contact, which isn't good. I'm praying it's not an Achilles. But it's one of those things where until they do more tests, we will not know. And look, it's just frustrating because he's on the crutches. I'm praying it's a broken foot. I'm praying it's not an Achilles, because if it is an Achilles, then you're looking at an injury where Olu's not going to be ready to start the season. And if that's the case, then all of a sudden this offensive line, which looks really good and had a lot of potential, now all of a sudden you're maybe looking at two tackles. Okay, you got Maury Moses, but can you find a bridge left tackle? And the Jets tried to bridge left tackle this year with Tyron Smith, and it worked out horribly. So I think that the next couple games is going to be really important for Max Mitchell and Carter Warren, whoever goes out there at tackle, because the next coaching staff is going to look at this tape and see if they have any potential. And if they don't, they're going to move on. Do we bring Aaron and Devontae back? Look, this is going to be the biggest debate. Here's how I will simply put it. I will not be upset if they are back, but it is frustrating where it's like, Aaron, you would hope Aaron would understand he needs to move the ball around, because you're seeing guys like Garrett Wilson. I just put my best foot forward and see how it plays out. That's all I can really do. All I can do. I really ran good routes this game. I feel like I had an opportunity to help the team, but sometimes it just doesn't fall like that. So I mean, I think he is clearly calling out Aaron Rodgers. And when you see that he's not targeted more than 3 times to the final drive of the game, you can get why. But here's how I look at the whole Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams situation. It is very simple. You hire the right people as the head coach and GM. You let them figure it out. If Mike Vrabel is telling people, I like the Jets job, I'm interested in the Jets job, but I have to have a say in the GM, I'm fine with that. If Vrabel, to me, is the best candidate for this Jet team on the market right now. Now, again, I don't love that he's a defensive side of the ball. I would, if in a perfect world, would rather have an offensive coach. But Vrabel's proven he can win this league. He can win and build a culture, which is what this team desperately needs. And if he has to put an input in with the GM, I don't have a problem with that. Then it comes down to them. If Mike Vrabel looks at this situation and then feels like he can build enough of a culture and that he's enough of a player to be able to communicate with Aaron Rodgers and get Aaron Rodgers on the same page, like, to me, Vrabel's the one guy. If he wants to run it back with Aaron Rodgers, I'd be like, you know what? I'm okay with that, because I feel like this is a former player, a heady former player that is someone I do think Rodgers would have respect for. Now, other coaches I'd feel a little bit more wary of, but if Vrabel also comes into this building and basically tells everyone, hey, guess what? I want to clean house. I want to completely start over. I want to move on from Aaron Rodgers. You do it. I think you have to let whoever is going to be a head coach, because right now, to me, the Jets have a major head coaching problem. Like, I don't think there's a worse coach team in the National Football League. Situationally, the Jets have been horrendous in situation time after time after time again. Again, you saw it today. Like, in the first half, instead of, they got out of it because the Jets were able to move the football, but they took a delay of game penalty instead of burning 1 of 3 towns. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, is this one of the few times you're like, well, we don't want to look embarrassed and take the delay of game penalty? Well, call timeout. And then you look today, clock's ticking before the final 2-minute warning. looking at the sideline, confusion. They finally burn the timeout 2:02. Then they get the penalty. Then the field goal miss. It's just, I mean, this is a poor head coach team. And a part of it too is you think Rodgers doesn't have any respect for this coaching staff. So he's basically going out there. It's like, all right, I'm just going to throw and pad my stats. And by the end of the year, it's going to be like, hey, I'm the Jets all-time passing leader in yards. Hey, I set the record for TDs for the Jets. Hey, I was an efficient quarterback out there. When that's great, but it's not the whole story when he performs horribly in the second half, when he doesn't get the running game involved, and he doesn't get arguably what many will see is one of the best young receivers in football with Garrett Wilson. But here's the thing, Melvin, like I get that's great, but Garrett clearly after this game, he's pissed off, and I don't blame him. If he's going to be on a team like this that's this bad, at least get him involved. Like, I mean, I think he's calling it out today too. He's telling people it's out of my control. Like, and you heard it from this camp earlier this week that basically the camp would be frustrated because if it continues to go this direction, hey, this is not good. Like, try to feed him the ball, make him happy, make sure he enjoys being here. But instead, no, we just completely ignore him in this office. And look, if Woody does truly mental, if Woody or his kids fully metal, this is the one time I want you to do it. Go down this coaching staff and say, I will pay you whatever. I will do whatever you want to not embarrass you, but you got to give Garrett Wilson the damn football because that was embarrassing. And it's not like the target share was even close. It wasn't like, okay, Devontae's number one. Fine. I get it. But it was Devontae, then Conklin, and then Alan Lazard. And it's like, really? Really? Like, you're going to let that happen? You're going to let Alan Lazard out-target Garrett freaking Wilson? And I know some people say, well, Garrett's the fourth most targeted receiver in the NFL. Okay. Well, how about you throw him the spot in the end zone? How about you give him an opportunity? Because it was clear, especially after the first half, that, the Rams basically said, they're basically looking for Devontae every play. Like, it just seems to me like, and you can tell me I'm wrong, but it almost feels like that's all Rodgers was looking for was Devontae Adams today. Like, he only had eyes for Devontae. Okay, Devontae, instead of, I don't know, Garrett Wilson. And it's just so frustrating because the Jets have an incredibly talented player in Garrett Wilson. And I know everyone's biggest fear is he's going to request a trade. Again, there's so many things that he can request a trade. But again, the Jets still have all their rights and everything. But it is just frustrating because, like, again, it's not just losing with this team. It wasn't just that this team has been embarrassed this year. It isn't that this Jet team has been a punching bag. It isn't just that, the Jets are getting dragged in hit piece after hit piece because it's easy writing. The other team across town is going to have the number one pick, probably going to have to release everyone. But of course, there's not going to be a hit piece on them until the end of the year because the Giants, again, I know they have more Lombardis in the cases, but the last 10, 12 years, they've been the Jets. Just swap out the logos. That's basically what they've been. But for some reason, they get all the respect in the world. But it's like, it just feels like this is one of those weeks where the universe is just piling on Jet fans when it doesn't need to. It's like, okay, we got that hit piece. Great. Okay, fine. Then later, of course, on Jeopardy, it asks the Jet question about the Super Bowl. And instead, you're like, there's a bunch of teams that have never won a freaking Super Bowl. Or hell, there haven't been teams that have been to a Super Bowl. But, no, it's LOL Jets. And then, of course, today it's like Olu Fashanu, who's a bright spot at left tackle, the best left tackle we've had since Brick, looks like a stud, is one of the few bright spots of our season, a key building block, and now he's hurt. And he's hurt to the point where we're now holding our breath. And we're all hoping that it's an injury where it's like he'll be ready to go for next season. but it is just so frustrating because it's not just that the Jets are losing football games. It's hard enough. It's that they lose one possession football games. They lose them in mind-boggling ways. The Jets today, again, like they find weird ways to lose to make history. They were today made history again. They're the first team ever to not punt in a game, and they score 9 points. So the first team ever to not punt in a game and score less than 10 points. They found a way to do that. And it's just, this season has been so mind-numbing for Jet fans because it isn't just that the Jets are losing. It's that they are just going through this abysmal stretch, and it just feels like it's not just that they're losing, but it is just unbelievable that they just cannot. It's just added insult to injuries. And it's just such a frustrating thing because, again, it's every week, this team and this fan base, tries to find hopes, tries to be positive, tries to find the bright light and everything. And we do everything possible. But once again, it's like you just keep getting kicked in the teeth over and over. And for people that think the Jets are cursed, like this is one of those games where you can point to, it's like, it feels like it. Because like the one bright spot was Olu, and now he's hurt. And again, it's football. Injuries happen. They're unfortunately, but it is just so frustrating. And it's just like this team is isolating too. It's like this coaching staff isn't just horrendous at their job, isn't just absolutely terrible, but they are also alienating two of their most talented players who are incredibly frustrated and want to help in Breece Hall, who is someone that wants to make an impact, who basically just gets a couple of carries. It is completely frustrating when you see a team that has Garrett Wilson, who's a dynamic receiver, who's going to have 1,000 yards despite having crap quarterback play every single time, but gets 3 targets and clearly is frustrated. He is clearly frustrated. He's open in this game, and it's one of those things too where we go back and forth. We go back and forth with this Jet team. And again, guys, comment below, super chat to jump the line. Use the sticker feature in the super chat. But it is just so mind-numbing because with Aaron Rodgers, I'm split. Would he probably be the best option of all the quarterbacks? Realistically, yes. But there's things too. He likes comfort. And comfort for him is Devontae. And yes, Devontae has helped. He's been good since he's been a Jet. But you saw it last week, and I think that's part of the reason Garrett Wilson's pissed is because Garrett Wilson was this team's number 1 receiver. And Devontae, and I think it was pitched to him, Devontae's going to come here. He's going to help this team win. But more importantly, he's going to take pressure off of you. And I think Garrett was all on board for that. But instead, Devontae hasn't helped this team win. And it just seems like every time the Jets are in the red zone or need a big play, Aaron just has eyes for Devontae. And it's frustrating because Devontae in the red zone is having drops. Garrett has one of the best catches we've ever seen, but he doesn't get targeted in the red zone. And then today, it's not that he's being out-targeted by Devontae, but Allen Lazard, really, Aaron? Really, dude? Allen freaking Lazard? Most Jet fans want to jettison Allen Lazard to the sun, and you are targeting him more than Garrett freaking Wilson. But it's just another one of these games where you just look at it and you just go, so frustrating. And, Garrett Wilson, even on the former Mike LaFleur, seeing him with the Rams, love him. My rookie year, looking back on it, was a special time. I might have took it for granted. I love seeing him and how he's helping that offense. So Garrett's basically telling this organization, if I'm going to stay here, any chance, you better get smart people in here. You better get people in here that are going to help my game. Because as much as we love to kill LaFleur, I mean, the last two offensive coordinators have been absolutely dreadful. And here's the other thing I really think this hire is important. I think Vrabel would be a good hire, even though he's a defensive coach. I think he's one of those few people that could communicate with Garrett and get Garrett on board and have Garrett buy in because he's a former player. The only other scenario is if you bring in a really heady offensive head coach, but I just don't see a great fit right in there for the Jets that's going to be out there. I know a lot of people are saying John Gruden. I think Gruden's out of it, and I think there's too much baggage with Gruden right now. Like, I don't see a great offensive head coach. The only one I could see is Kevin Stefanski if he gets fired, but I'm not sure if that will happen. But I would be keeping an eye on him. But an interesting thing, Patriots are winning right now. So if they win, they'll be 4 wins. But again, the Jets will have the stronger strength of schedule. But again, you want to get teams at least in striking range. So look, I do think that the Jets are going to have a top 10 pick. And for everyone killing that this is a bad job, if you can convince Garrett Wilson to buy in, you have talented players on this roster. I still think this offensive line, even with the Olu question, is very good. But it is one of those things, too, where it's just like, I don't get this coaching staff. There's no accountability. You look at this staff, and it's just Xavier Gibson has been horrendous with punt returns this year. And again, he cost them the game. You spent all this draft capital on a guy like Malachi Corley, whose biggest selling point to this fan base was his ability to get the ball in his hands and make plays. Can we give him a freaking punt return, please? Wilson had Melvin, he had until the last drive. Until the last drive, Lazard had more targets. And again, it almost felt like pity targets because they're like, oh, shit, we haven't given the ball to Garrett. Garrett had 3 catches on the last drive. Garrett should have 3 catches on every freaking drive in a perfect world. So I get what you're saying, but if you're looking at the total box scores, yes, Wilson had more targets than Lazard, but that's up until the last drive where Lazard was out targeting Garrett Wilson. So I hope that cleared it up. I'm late. I want picks for AR. I'm starting to look. You're not getting picks for them. If you're Aaron Rodgers is getting cut, I don't see any team giving you any draft capital for that baggage. Adams, like the big thing with them is with Adams, you get a comp pick. It's just Pete Carroll is an intriguing one. Now, if Pete Carroll wants to come in with an offensive coordinator, now Pete Carroll, it depends. If he wants to be the player personnel guy straight at the top, that's my ideal role for him. But if it comes in like he says, look, I'm going to start as the head coach, but I'll help you pick the GM. I'll help groom the successor head coach who's going to be the offensive coordinator. And then eventually I'm going to move to the president of football operations. That could be a good situation too. Vrabel's overrated. He hired Carter and Downing. He needs to elevate Wilson and Hall. Well, he also fired them when he realized they weren't working. So, and again, that's why I don't get why Saleh was so like, I got to hire these guys. Elevate Wilson and Hall with offensive coaching. Look, I get it. And look, Melvin, here's the thing with Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, and I think Kev was basically what I was going to say. There's too many options. And even Ben Johnson has said he needs the perfect situation. Ben Johnson's also in a situation, too. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Kellen Moore. Because Kellen Moore has been a great offensive coordinator in the National Football League for years. But weirdly, he's never gotten a head coaching job. Now, maybe he will in Philly because Nick Sirianni is nuts. But to me, Johnson might be a guy, because don't forget, Johnson is one of the highest paid OCs in the league. He might not really want to get into coaching right now. He's in a great situation where he's making really good money. He's on a really good team and has a chance to potentially win a Super Bowl. Maybe he even looks at this offseason. Maybe he loves Caleb Williams in Chicago, but doesn't. Maybe he's looking like, yeah, there's some intriguing situations, but none of the quarterbacks I like in this class. Yeah, I'll stay in Detroit. I would not be shocked if I had to put money on. If they win the Super Bowl, maybe he might be a little bit more inclined to go out and show what he can do. But if I had to put money on it, I almost would 60-40 say Ben Johnson stays. And his excuse will be, well, I have a great thing going here in Detroit, getting paid good money, and there just really wasn't a great option. And I know there's going to be reservations about Vrabel, but I do think Vrabel is a head coach that's won in this league, won a playoff game, has been a very good head coach. And look, it's just one of those things where you just look at this team and you look like, I think it's frustrating too, because you see this team, when you see LaFleur on the other sideline today, this offense with any other quarterback not named Zach Wilson looked really good. And then of course they got desperate. They had to fire LaFleur, and it's so. But I did think it was very interesting on Jets post game, because I do think Bart Scott is one of the people I respect the most, because he'll tell you how it is. Bart Scott's not going to mix words, and he had a very good quote. As long as Rodgers and Davante Adams are here, it's not going to get any better. The Jets need to find a different nucleus to fix this problem. If the new head coach wants to do it for 1 year, maybe, but I generally agree, because the Jets under this regime, specifically Rodgers, and specifically, I'm not putting on really Davante, it's mostly Rodgers, it has been chaos. And look, the Jets have done everything to make Aaron Rodgers happy. They've gotten every player he has wanted. They held out for Davante Adams. And this is also the other thing too. We all talk about the Jerry Jeudy trade, which again, I think, it came down to Matting's rings, even though Jerry Jeudy said on Twitter, no, he nixed the trade. Part of me also wonders, did a certain quarterback maybe nix that trade a little bit? Because, hey, Jerry Jeudy's talented, but he's not Davante. He's not Davante Adams. So, Kev, you can technically extend them early. I would try to. Sauce, I still think it's just been nicked up this year. I wouldn't fully give up on Sauce. If team gave you a great offer, maybe. But look, I think you try to build around those three. It's just frustrating because I just look at this core with Aaron Rodgers, and look, this has got to come down to the next head coach, because there is going to be really hard decisions. There's going to be really hard decisions that will range from the following. Number one, who is our quarterback? Do we keep Aaron Rodgers, and is it working? If you don't keep Aaron Rodgers, then it turns into, okay, do we take all the dead money now, or do we split it up? Then if we move on from Rodgers, who are we keeping? Who are we looking to target in free agency? Do we look for a bridge quarterback? Do we look for a cast off like a Justin Fields and a Tyrod Taylor together? Like, there's so many dominoes that are going to fall throughout this offseason. There's going to be so many dominoes that are going to come up, and basically you have to knock them down one at a time, because the new GM and the new head coach, and it's not going to be easy. Don't get me wrong. It's not going to be easy. They're going to have to figure out a lot here. And again, does it get harder if Olu's out with significant time? I'll tell you this, it doesn't get easier. Garrett Wilson also on apparently posting on social media. You think I'm trying to be cool with that 5-yard catch? Absolutely no. I'm trying to take that MF to the career, turn to an explosive, shake the whole squad, and at least go out trying. You'll probably never understand. If you mad about 2 yards, just know that's why we won't get along 100%. So Garrett Wilson is, of course, frustrated, and I would be too. And it is just such a frustrating. It's just been a frustrating season. Like, I don't think this has been a more frustrating season with the expectations of this team, where you thought this team could potentially go. And more importantly, I think where you saw that this team had the potential to grow and a team to potentially be a really good football team, it's almost like you couldn't come up with a season this bad. But I will say the silver lining to this season is they are this bad, which means they have to make significant changes. And we've already seen it. They've already interviewed a bunch of people for the GM job. I think they're doing a very good job. They've gotten a head start on that. They're looking at the head coaching. They're already getting interest on the head coach. It comes down to who they hire. They have to get the right people in there because, again, the Texans were a joke until they got the right people in there. Every organization that has failed is a joke until they get right. The Lions, who have had a worse history than the Jets, were a joke until they finally got it right. They just have to hire the right people. And I know that's a lot easier said than done, but if the Jets hire the right people, they can help to turn this around. If they don't, we know it's going to happen, unfortunately. So it's just one of those things too. Like, you have to look at it. Like, my biggest thing would be if this team, I think the worst thing for this team would have been if they somehow won these meaningless games down the stretch, got to like 7 wins, played well enough down the stretch, and it was kind of like the Adam Gase, like, well, we finished the season strong in meaningless games, but we're going to take this momentum into next year. We're going to run it back with everything the same. No, this team needs significant blow up. And you also wonder the interest of this head coaching staff. Again, you would think Jeff Olberg would be trying to win games because if he wants any shot of being a head coach, he wants to put good stuff on tape. But instead, it's just simple decisions and overwhelming decisions. And I think Connor Rodgers made a great point where he got mixed up on that last drive. He said, you shouldn't get mixed up in the moment because in your mind, before Aaron Rodgers steps on the field, you have all the different scenarios of when you're kicking, when you're calling time out, when you're going for it in your head. And it doesn't appear like they're doing that. Garrett is a winner, and that's being sat by Lisa Culture. Look, I get it. And look, I get it. Like, it's just it's just frustrating right now. And you get why. And look, I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of trade rumors this offseason with Garrett Wilson. Because, again, it's the Jets. It's New York. He's not happy. That's the athlete in today's game. That he is going to... He's going to be a talking point. Will he demand a trade? I'm not sure. But even if he does request a trade, the Jets still have his rights. The Jets still control him. And look, this is incredibly frustrating. It's another game where you're just scratching your head. Now, the big thing, too, is, like, again, you got to put it on this new staff. What do they do at the quarterback? Do they go in the draft? There's so many moving pieces to this offseason that we're going to have to follow. And don't worry, we will here on Rich Sports Talk. We will be here the whole step of the way. Make sure to give us a like, subscribe so you don't miss any of our latest content, and go check out some of our latest videos. My latest video is up on the channel Net Live now, where I graded every single Joe Douglas draft pick, gave my explanation, also looked at key players that were on the board and were overlooked, and gave him an overall drafting grade. I think a lot of you are going to be surprised, but again, that is live on the channel right now. You can go check that out right now. So it is definitely a good one. If you want some, I guess, more lighthearted Jets, if you want some more happy Jets talk right now. Actually, I'll do you guys one more. I will actually put the link in the comments. So if you want to go check that out right now, that is in the comments. That is every single Joe Douglas draft pick trade graded and evaluated. So again, we will talk about that as well. One of my favorite comments was they forgot that the Jets took 2 Michael Carters in that draft. I'm still picking Olu. Dude, the Jets, I know the injury today, but Jets need a left tackle. If he's a franchise left tackle, they are so hard to find, and I think he's shown he can be one. Brock Bowers is a special player. It also helps, too, he doesn't have Devontae on his team, so he's getting all the targets. But you know what you can find in round 2 or 3? You can find a great tight end. You know what they're called? Sam Laporta, George Kittle. You can find talented tight ends on day 2 of the draft, maybe even day 3. You know what's really hard to find? Franchise left tackles, and I think the Jets have one. I'm just praying that his injury isn't severe and that hopefully Olu isn't bad. But again, we will update through all that. But I'll be fascinated. Who's going to be the left tackle for the Jets down the stretch? Will it be Max Mitchell, who started in today? Will it be Carter Warren? Either way, I think these are key games for them. Certain guys at this point in the season, I would shut down. I know Sauce is battling the hammy injury. If I'm the Jets, I shut him down. If Breece Hall's knee is still bothering him, I would shut him down. Another Jet I'd look to is Quinnen Williams, who would miss today's game. A bit of a surprise. And again, you see the difference. Like when Jermaine and Quinnen are on this defensive line, they are garbage. They cannot stop anything. So, but at this point of the season, especially if you're ownership, I'm going the extra mile and saying, look, we got 2 games left. I know it's against the Bills, and I know it's against the Dolphins, especially. I know you'd like to beat one of those teams, but look, just protect your key players for next season so that they are in a good spot. And look, it's just infuriating. I get it. But look, I guess the silver lining for Jet fans here is there's only 2 more games left to go. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here for Rich Sports Talk. Again, make sure to use our new Super Chat feature to jump the line and to also make sure that you can use those new stickers that we have featured on the channel. We'll be having a lot of content, of course, discussing the head coaching search, the GM search, and the draft all this offseason. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be a lot of fun, but you better make sure that you don't miss anything this offseason, especially here on Rich Sports Talk. If you know anyone that's a huge Jet fan, let them know about our channel and check it out. And if you haven't already, go check out our draft grade video on Joe Douglas. I did every single Joe Douglas pick. And look, there were some damn painful picks, and especially certain picks like the Jeremy Ruckert pick. When you see the tight ends the Jets passed up on, that's going to give you guys nightmares. I know it certainly did for me. But anyways, guys, make sure to give us a like, subscribe. We'll be back, of course, after next week, after the Buffalo game, giving our live reaction. And we'll have more Jets videos throughout the week. But if I don't see you until then, have a happy holidays. And make sure to give us a like and subscribe. And check us out wherever podcasts are available. I'm your host, Lone Rich, and this is Rich Sports Talk. We will see you next time.